Welcome to On the Couch. Round 21 is in the books. 3 weeks to go, and we're no closer to knowing what the final 8 will look like and who the finals teams will be in September. I'm joined by Jordan Lewis, Jonathan Brown, Nathan Buckley, but most importantly, the greatest player, potentially the greatest coach of all time, Leigh Matthews, joins us in your grand poobah chair. Yep. Lethal, it's great to have you back in town. It's great to have you back on the couch.
Thank you. No, it's always good to be here, Jack. Yeah, good.
And I had to use one of the Leeisms yesterday. To my under-15 girls who got beaten after the siren, a few excuses were starting to get made. And I said to the girls afterwards in the rooms, a lot of tears, the under-15 girls, as you would after you lose the game after the siren. I said, excuses are like junk food, girls. Initially, they taste good, but in the long term, they give you no nourishment. And that was Lee's ripper every time. We got a little bit of an excuse every now and again.
Dubious 50-metre penalty, I think, sunk
very
your finals
dubious.
Leigh, we're going to open up with your observations. You've been watching the game from afar. What have you seen?
Well, post-21, a few observations. I'll add a little bit of my advice along the way. First of all, St Kilda. Now, they're trying to recruit Tom De Koning, and they're trying to retain Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira. All I know is your best player should be your highest paid player. And if he's not, you're asking for trouble.
And what sort of trouble? So let's say Tom De Koning's been touted at $1.8 million. They're in the battle to keep Nasiah at the moment. Do you see rumblings, if they do sign that players are going to look and go, well, hang on, I'm a better player than him and I should be on more money?
Well, it should be. That's what I mean. The best player, if there's an obvious best player, which currently at St Kilda, would be Wanganeen-Malira. He should be the highest paid player, as you were, Brown, in your prime, as you were, Bucks, in your prime. I mean, if you're the best, and that's what I mean, I don't think there's any dispute at St Kilda at the moment, is it, that Wanganeen-Malira is their gun player?
But isn't that an easy one, though, to bump up the offer? To make sure
that's their problem. But what I'm saying is your best player should be your highest paid.
The only time that ever really becomes an issue is if there's speculated numbers on bringing a player from the outside in. Because you can often like, say you're all on contracts and 2 years later a player's elevated himself and becomes the best player, but all the contracts are sort of in camera at that point. Players aren't asking each other in the locker room, what are you on?
But they know, don't you think they know these days through their player managers?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, but it's in your face when you're recruiting someone for a certain number and that's thrown up.
Yeah, but that's my advice. They can ignore it.
Would you pay Harley Reid $24 million over 11 years?
No.
Right.
No, not at this point.
West Coast Eagles, they're
let's the big picture. The AFL equalisation is looking really shaky, isn't it, after round 21 of 2025? And the Eagles are the team that's stuck on the bottom. We know there's been some massive blowouts that are happening regularly. But the Eagles are interesting to me. I mean, they're rich and they're powerful, but you can't buy a premiership in the modern footy, which is the good thing. But they are going to have to draft really well. And I look back at the Suns. Remember, the Suns were down the bottom about 6 years ago. They got a priority pick, and they were down the bottom, so they got Rowell and they got Anderson. Great ability, great character, and they stayed. And the Suns have sort of built their team off the back of their example. So this is what the Eagles' challenge is to be, to make sure because you got to do the free agency picking up and all that to try and elevate yourself, but you've got to draft really good character that stays the journey.
Isn't that what Brisbane did?
Brisbane did that with McCluggage. Well, everyone's trying to do it. You've got to get a McCluggage and Rainey, you could say, are good examples, maybe almost 10 years ago when they came in. But everyone's trying to do it. But nailing the formula, as I say, the Suns seem to me to be the latest team that have nailed that formula.
It seems like if you're an interstate club trying to draft a kid from another state, if you can get a mate that comes with them to potentially allow them to stay.
All that. And it's obviously building the right culture and having enough success and travelling there, because I think there's a certain time frame that you need to be looking like you're going to improve and contend. That locks people there.
Can I tell you, players build culture. You build culture where you were. You build culture where you guys do too. Sometimes you look outside. I reckon players are the building blocks of the culture, unless you've got a terrible example around.
Would you give them a priority pick?
Absolutely. If you're ever going to give a priority pick again, they've been bad enough for long enough. I know they've run the Premiership in 18, and that's sort of, in the back of your mind a bit. But if you're that bad, it's about the first draft choice this year might go to the Eagles, and you think, oh, terrific, I've got to be down the bottom of the ladder for the next. You've got to try and make sure equalisation works. so that the
They won a
draft...
flag in 2018. How would the St Kilda fan who's
Yeah.
won one premiership in their whole journey feel about a priority pick
Yeah.
after 7 years in the hiatus?
Yeah, well, that is an interesting point. And maybe if you've run a premiership in the last decade, you become ineligible. But if you talk about 4 or 5 really... They've won 11 games in the last 5 seasons. So, I mean, if you're really bad, OK, you can stay bad, but the competition is based on its equalisation pillar.
Yeah, it's not working at the moment. The footy's been ordinary this year. I've been saying it from early in the season, but our stats will back it up now. The amount of 75-plus point margins there's been is the record this year, and we've still got 3 games to go, and it's been really disappointing and has to be a concern for the AFL going forward. Is it an anomaly? Well, at the moment, it doesn't look like it's going to be an anomaly because there is a stark difference between the top 9 and the bottom 9, especially those bottom few teams. So that's been a concern.
And the commission, Leigh?
Well, only on the commission. I thought we should have a look at the commission because the commission in the AFL world are the only body that can change rules. So Greg Swan, the AFL hierarchy, they can make recommendations, but the commission is the only body that can change rules. So maybe if it's worth having a look at them on the basis of how much football intellect is on that board. Certainly business intellect, yes. Andrew Ireland, we know well, he's been around the football world a long, long time. Hope he's got a lot of influence there. When it comes to on-field decisions, like what the game is on the field, not about the marketing, not about the DNA of the game itself. Matt de Boer is obviously an ex-player. But anyway, in terms of playing Greg Swan's role, which we all love to do, one of the things that looks like happening is that it looks like the bounce is probably just about dead. I think it's doomed. So you're going to do the throw-up, right? But the throw-up is the first stage of it. The second stage is making sure players, something like this configuration. So on the other side of the circle there, there might be 2 lines, so you've got to run 4 or 5 steps. I mean, this is an example of what happened with Goldstein and Grundy. And this happens so often that you make them, not only do you throw it up when you know exactly where the ball's going, because it's not a bounce, it's a consistent throw-up, and players run 4 or 5 steps in to jump at the ball. And
it was good to watch Gawn and Williams on the weekend. I did that. It was fantastic.
Did they have a deal or something?
I don't know, but it was great to watch.
It's like a negotiation pre-game.
But it actually gives the midfielders more scope to move and
less
probably,
free kicks.
And less free kicks and less predictable to the teammates. So what you're saying is that will then go to the commission, who will then decide
they're the ultimate
whether that
decision
comes in or not.
They're the ultimate decision maker.
Does that worry you?
Decisions
Does
like
that worry you with that football IQ? Because I would imagine Greg Swan comes in and he's spoken on 360 that he doesn't like the bounce. Yeah. And then we have the Laws of the Game Committee, which is now defunct. We have another committee, competition committee, as well. Is it not derelict of the AFL to actually send it to people like you, Leigh, and go, do we need the bounce?
Well, that's why they decided last year that when Andrew Ireland and Matt de Boer came on to get some football people on the commission for that very reason. You would hope people stick in their lanes. And when it comes to the on-field stuff, Andrew Ireland and Matt de Boer would be critical to it, but you'd hope they would just be accepting the recommendations of the AFL administration.
Have you been asked to be on the commission at any stage?
Oh, no, I flirted with that a couple of years ago. Yeah. That never worked
And
out.
why did you say no?
Too much common sense.
It would make sense to have someone like you on there.
Oh, no, not someone like me.
Rightio.
Just a quick one on Swanee. Do you think he missed a trick with Toby Green's sort of back heel?
I probably did, yeah. I mean, it's a match review issue, but we know that it is a decision made at the head office. I mean, the football manager was called in, I'm pretty sure, on all the decisions that Michael Christian makes. And so I thought that was kind of that was the benefit of the doubt, wasn't it? That was very close to getting kicked in the place none of us men want to get kicked in.
No. Yeah, well, the match review is certainly not a tried and true measure, and it's certainly in the gun with Greg Swan. A tried and true measure, though, boys, is the Premiership window, and we are 3 weeks out from September, 3 rounds to go. So we're going to take a look at the Premiership window. First, round 16 was the last time, Leigh, that we had a look at it, and you can see the 4 sides sitting in there. Gold Coast teetering on the edge of being in the Premiership window. The Pies, the Hawks, the Crows and the Cats. If we fast forward through now, well, 3 teams remain in there. Gold Coast have found their way in there. The big slider.
A few contenders. There's 7 chances there.
Yeah.
Probably Hawthorn might be a bit too far out there, but that gives the window big chance to succeed once again, Bucks, for about the 20th season in a row.
And in the next 3 rounds, can the Dogs creep back up into it themselves? You want to look at that big divide between the haves and have-nots there, like the top 9 and the bottom 9. That's only got bigger. But, Brisbane dropped off a little bit. The Giants have
That
got a little
surprised me,
closer.
doesn't it? Yes.
Even with that result with the Dogs.
Are you worried, Brownie? Because I imagine you would still have Brisbane at the pointy end come the Premiership race. And we love the Premiership window, but at the moment, they don't marry up.
No, they don't. But I tend to look at it. I'm a big supporter of the window, don't get me wrong.
Here we go.
I was one of the original backers with the window, but their form against big teams. When they come against good opposition, Geelong, Hawthorn and Collingwood, namely the last few weeks, they step up to the plate. So you wouldn't want to be running into the big boys in September.
You want to be in the Premiership? Were they in the Premiership window last grand final day, you think?
Yes,
Yes,
they were.
they were.
You probably
Tried
were.
and true measure.
Exactly
No,
right.
not
19
before,
of the last
during
20.
the game, after the game.
After the game.
No, I think
Right in the window.
they're a chance to work their way in. But it will be concerning for me, Jack. If you ask me after round 23 or round 24 and they're sitting outside the window, that's very
I
concerning.
reckon we might revisit it
Between
on the cusp of
round
finals.
16 and round 21, when that had changed, Brisbane had played 4 of the top 8 sides.
Yeah.
Geelong only 1. So there are things that have certainly gone against Brisbane. Adelaide have played 3, Collingwood have played 3, Gold Coast have played 3. So there's some sides actually stacking up in that particular area playing top 9 sides. Brisbane have played the 4.
Don't question the credibility of the window.
Let's get into the
saying
weekend
there's-
of footy, Brownie. It was one of the blockbusters, touted as one of the big games, obviously, a rematch of 2023 grand final. And it was Brisbane that came to town and put the Pies to the sword, especially in the
Great
third
response, led by Chris Fagan. Straight at the press conference after the Q Clash, the debacle of the Q Clash, and Gold Coast just dismantled them around the midfield, and they responded, didn't they? So they were stung by that. Their second half against the Pies was outstanding. Like, look at those numbers: plus 19 contested, plus 18 clearance, and players say obviously they got the territory right, but the pressure was through the roof. That
wasn't it?
32 tackles, I think it was, in the third quarter alone, in a dry night was incredible, and they were all coming. Like, even Bailey and Rayner went up around the midfield in that third quarter. They were aggressive, yes, cracking bodies, and it was just great to see. So you can see the midfielders leading the way, the big boys there, McCluggage, Neal, Dunkley's, the Ashcroft fellas. You know, they're just so deep. So I mentioned those boys, the Ashcroft brothers, Rayner, Bailey, Berry. So they're the deepest midfield in the competition. They're tough, they're hardened individuals, and they've got a lot of talent with foot skills and by hand as well. So they were fantastic, I thought.
And Darcy Ford had a sneaky good game on the weekend too against Darcy Cameron. Obviously lost to McInerney.
Who would you least like to get tackled by currently?
Rayner.
Rayner, I
He's
think.
like a sledgehammer, doesn't he?
Ball, isn't he? Yeah.
He had 7 or 8 tackles, and they're all really tough ones, yeah.
It probably showed up something though in the Pies, a bit of their midfield. I've done a few of their games recently, and they've lost 3 out of their last 4 against good midfield teams: Gold Coast, Fremantle and Brisbane, and lower their colours. And I was just chatting to Geordie about it this morning. We're just seeing a few little signs that are letting the Pies down at the moment.
So I think this is a little bit Brisbane, a little bit Collingwood as well, but all good midfields know you need to have balance and shape around stoppages, and you certainly can't duck off before the ball has been won. So I think Brisbane, after last week's game, they would have went to work on their balance around stoppages and not leaving the contest too early before the ball had been won. And I just thought their hunt really created issues for Collingwood. You see there the balance of the Collingwood players hoping the ball gets out of that particular contest, and away they go, and the Brisbane line midfielders. So staying in the contest longer and then being able to use shape to get out of that contest into the open spaces and be able to transition the ball. The other thing that Brisbane did really well is they rode the tackle. You can see all these missed tackles from Collingwood. If you're able to ride the tackle and find options inside forward 50, that means you're in good health. So you review the game against the Gold Coast. I think their balance was out of whack. Their hunt is out of whack because they're not in the right spots. But I just think at the moment, sometimes, especially on the weekend, Collingwood are taking a few liberties to try and get forward of the contest before it had been won.
The reliance on Scott Pendlebury to do that role seems
Well,
like he's a one-man band at the moment.
Yeah, well, he's usually the defensive mid. He's usually the one that orchestrates everything and allows, De Goey and Dacos and McCreery when he's in the side to be a starting mid and to duck off forward. So I got no doubt that Collingwood would review that game right there and go, yeah, we just got our contest method a bit wrong.
Well, he'll play that game, that role in transition as well. But I'd suspect that if you could pick one talent or skill to have or attribute in a team, it'd be, OK, stick your tackles when they're there to be stuck and beat the tackler if you can. And we've seen it with Adelaide in the last couple of weeks. One of the reasons why I think they're standing up really well is because they're tackling so effectively, and they're really hard to tackle on the other side. It opens up so many possibilities when you're winning that aspect of the game.
Bucks, I'd be interested to get your view as well. And the boys last night on Crack put up a stat based around Nick Dacos, and 43% of their scores go through Nick Dacos. Is that? Do you think that's an over-reliance on one particular player? And I'll just show this piece of vision, and it's just you're sort of starting to see this maybe creep into his game a little bit, where you're calling for the ball in areas where you might not be as dangerous. That's Josh Dacos with the ball. I think anyone who realises when Josh Dacos gets the ball, he can be okay. But it's probably the after attitude. Why didn't you give it to me? So when you see that in a player,
Are you worried about that?
Have you got any more? Is that
no, I could have showed 10.
Really?
But
Okay.
So it's a habit.
It's a habit.
So he wants the ball.
Yeah, but it's a balance between wanting the ball and wanting the ball in the wrong spots.
Is that also a directive from the coach, do you reckon? Give the ball to Nick?
There's got to be a balance in it. So 43% of the ball go through Nick to get a score. That's obviously a big tick. But you can't be calling for the ball, and you can't be expected to give the ball to a player, no matter how dangerous they are, when they're not in the most dangerous position.
Do you think this is a bad habit that has developed because of him being tagged so tightly?
No, I don't think so. I think he's been really good in terms of mixing up his positions. He's a Brownlow medal favourite for a reason. But I just think sometimes, and he may need some help in that area.
Who helps him? Because at the moment, you're right, it's a one-man band. 43%, you can skin it any way you want. That's unhealthy.
Yeah, I think if you look at their lists, and we brought up Dan Houston last week to where his position, where is he best suited, and he hasn't found his absolute niche on the half-back line. Is he one of the players, in terms of centre-forward distributors, that you might try and expose to that midfield group?
You've highlighted a few issues that Collingwood have got, and I think they were well beaten on the weekend, and Craig McRae said as much in the post-match, in particular around midfield. But there's some numbers that actually that stack up for them, and in the last month they're 1-3. They've lost 3 games, but if you look at their field position, time in forward half, they're actually 2 minutes more per game in the front half in the last month than they were before that. So they're still getting time in front half. They're allowing less inside 50s as an average than they were in between the opening round and round 17. So they're actually defending the ground a lot better, and they're actually they're conceding less goals.
Are they?
No, not goals conceded. So their time inside, so they're less inside 50s. But for all those inside 50s, it's at the pointy ends that the concerns are. So between the arcs is fine, but at the pointy end, in their deep 50, they're giving up. They've gone from second best defending goals to 8th, and scores inside, they've gone from first best to 12th. So all their issues, I think, are at their pointy ends of the field.
So
a little bit in forward 50.
Defensively, you think it's coincided with Jeremy Howe being out? Where did that go
And
a few
Frampton
weeks
as well.
ago?
Yeah, well, Frampton's been out for a while, and they're trying to buffer that. And I think that does have a flow-on effect to Darcy Moore and the others. But I think Jeremy Howe's the one, for me. So he's been out for 3.5 games of that month, and I think his leadership and his control of that back six is crucial. Not just when they're in their defensive 50, but we're in their midfield and contrling the front half.
He seems to be the conductor. When you're at a game live, he seems to be the conductor.
Well,
he's the director.
He's leading Darcy Moore in positioning. He gets across and closes off and shuts down a dangerous situation when it looks like the opposition can connect and score. And there's a stoppage, time for the cavalry to get back, reset, which is what Collingwood want to do. They do it with their slow offence and their controlled offence, and they do it. They don't want high transition because they're not a high transition team. So if they can bring it into contest, bring it into structure, bring it into being able to play the minutes, play the moments, then they're in good shape.
So would you say all those stats would reflect a more conservative approach with ball in hand? Because they haven't been able to score from back up. That's been an issue.
No, I think they've adjusted their game since 23. I think they've been. We were talking about them being a fast-flowing, open offence.
Well, they're certainly not that now.
No, I don't think they have been for the majority of the year, and their defensive numbers have reflected that because they defend off the back of their ball use really well. They just couldn't score off our long down the line, so they usually score 2 in 3 of their long down the lines. Harris Andrews absolutely controlled that aspect of the game on the weekend. And if you've got a player that can control that aspect against Collingwood, you're going to be well and truly in the match.
In their offence, I mean, their explosive speed, though, comes from Nick Dacos, which is why they want to give the ball to him all the time, but also McCreery and Hill.
McCreery's a big loss.
And McCreery and Hill. I mean, they're the explosive speed, I reckon. And that's the thing we always talk about with Nick Dacos. How do you use him? Because you want him in space. If he gets the ball in the middle of the pack, he's either got to extricate himself to be really creative, which is why sometimes off the half-back line is when he's the most creative.
All of the roles you're talking about feed into being able to create turnover or intercept. The speed in the front half to either leave the ball there and go forward or put pressure on the disposal, which gives a Howe or a Darcy Moore a chance to intercept. We're not seeing that quite as much. But having said that, between the arcs, looks the same.
So are you worried about their style?
Sorry, do they make top four?
I didn't have... this Thursday night becomes
Hawthorn
crucial.
and
give them more
Brisbane to play. Sorry, Adelaide to play.
I think the Pies will look pretty good the next 2 weeks. I didn't pick them on the weekend. I thought the Lions would respond from the Suns beating. I'm not fearing... The double chance is really important. I didn't have them out as far in front as everyone said, and I don't have them that far back at the moment either.
Well, let's talk about a team that looks like they may be out in front of everyone at the moment. That's the Adelaide Football Club. They are playing blistering footy, and they're the only team at the moment that sits at the top of or around the top of the ladder in that top nine that is unscathed by being beaten heavily by another top nine contender. Geelong have had a pretty soft run, but everyone else has had a big loss, Brownie, except for the Crows, and they are just humming along nicely.
Oh, they are. They're well led, aren't they? And I know you're on the All-Australian committee, but this man sealed the deal as the All-Australian captain on Friday night. Jordan Dawson. He's got it, absolutely. Got a little C on his jacket on the blazer. His second quarter was unbelievable.
Noah Anderson says g'day.
Yeah, Noah Anderson's been outstanding, but normally you've got to get in an All-Australian team before you get given the captaincy. I'd be surprised if he gets it first year.
Oh,
what's
fair enough. I'll have a say. You won't.
I'll give us something. But all the great leaders and used to do at Bucks had the benefit of playing with the great Michael Voss. They sense moments in games, and obviously they were under pressure at quarter time. They were 5 goals down, and this man just stepped up to the plate with his actions. He was brilliant. He puts himself in dangerous situations. More often than not in the forward half. We saw he was well beaten by Josh Dunkley a few weeks ago, and then he went forward in that last quarter and got the Crows home. So displays all the qualities of a great captain, and that's why he'll be All-Australian captain.
Definitive statements. Yeah, you should. You're going to be good in the media. Hey, if he was good, well, then Isaac Rankine was excellent as well. I mean, that captain backed up the coach's calm and everything at quarter time. This bloke has heard his coaches, has heard what his team needs. He's sacrificed a little bit of midfield time and maybe some possessions.
Have they found the right balance for him? Because it was going to be predominantly midfield early on, but Soligo, he's come on as a player. Dawson's obviously a star now. The balance for Isaac, it's right, isn't it?
In the end, you use your players where you need them. And not many blokes are doing what Isaac Rankine does at forward 50, so you want him there. Yes, he can be there as a midfielder, but you put him there as a forward, he probably's covered 100, 150 metres less over the last sort of 90 seconds leading into that. Hasn't been bashed from pillar to post. He's got a little bit more energy. He's playing a 70 to 75% game time as a high forward, let alone like outside of an 80 or 85 as a mid. So it's whatever Adelaide are doing, whatever their mix is at the moment, you work with it until you need something different. I can see Isaac Rankine going into the middle for a 10-minute period in a final, in the third quarter, last quarter, and unleashing him into the midfield.
He's their opening bounce grand final.
Well, both of them are healthy too. Rankin and Thilthorpe have been healthy this year.
They'll even pop him sometime in the goal square as like the quasi full forward for a short period of time and let the big guys. Yeah. He's such a good one-on-one player, Rankin. I mean, that left foot goal he kicked in the middle of the last quarter, I mean, that was just incredibly skillful.
The other side of the coin is Hawthorn battling to make the 8. The Hollywood Hawks, many had them rising up to top 4 contention this year, Geordie. It's been a dramatic fall-off, and they're going to have to do it without their superstar, Will Day.
Well, I mean, it was always going to be a tough month of football, and the one silver lining was that they were going to get Will Day back. So he hasn't been back for long, and now they're going to have to find ways to do it without him. So that's going to be tough, and that's probably why I lose confidence in maybe them being a premiership contender this year. Let's hope they still make finals. Their final spot is still in jeopardy, but you're going to have to rely on the mids that are already there in Nash stepping up again. John Newcomb's form over recent weeks has probably dropped off a little bit in terms of being involved in the scoring change.
Does that concern you the most because he has to carry such a load?
Well, I think what sides do is they go, well, they've got one effectively A-grade midfielder. Yeah. Let's sit on him. And then, you're dealing with sort of Nash and Morrison on the wing and Ward.
He subbed out 2 weeks ago, John Newcombe.
Yeah, so maybe that's a management issue.
Was it a message or a management?
No, I think it's a management issue that maybe he's carrying, and that's the thing that we never know here, that what these players are carrying. The one part that I would love to see, and we've seen glimpses of it, Nick Watson in the middle. For me, he has to play that Cozzy Pickett type role.
He attended the first centre bounce against Adelaide probably 7 weeks ago at half-time and was a difference maker.
Yep. Two centre bounce attendances in a game of football for Nick Watson is not enough. Nowhere near enough. So if you compare that to Cozzy Pickett, who I think he can play the same role. When we're at Hawthorn, Rioli, Luke Bruce, Piopolo all supported the inside mids that can't spread. Pickett the last 2 weeks has been to 24 centre bounces one game, 24 centre bounces the next game. You can't tell me Nick Watson, if he lines up against any player in the competition, they wouldn't be worried.
Why is this not happening?
So where does the 21 that Will Day's gone in there, how would you spread that 21 amongst...
He can go half forward. Why can't Will Day start half forward?
No, Will Day's not there now.
Is that 21 literally to Nick Watson now?
I would be putting Nick Watson in at least 15 times.
So why isn't this happening, though? Like Sam Mitchell played in that era. Is this players not wanting to come out of centre bounce? Is this a directive from the coaches?
Well, don't worry about players not wanting to come out of centre bounce. It's not their decision. It's this decision of the coaching staff on what sort of makeup they want in that midfield. And right, they won centre bounces on the weekend, but they didn't score from centre bounce. So everything is in tight. They've got, Will Day's probably that player that can break into the open spaces. Nick Watson's that player. You've got him at your disposal. I'd be really surprised this weekend if he doesn't have 15 centre bounces. And if he doesn't, I think the mix is right.
Get on your phone to your old mate.
Or Dylan Moore, as you mentioned.
Dylan Moore had 4.
Player.
James Sicily finds himself finally back in some form. Obviously, niggling injuries, a groin injury for a period of time there, and he's starting to become the weapon off half-back that we know.
Well, Brownie asked for him to be rested pre-bye, so he got that, and he was able to get his body right, which, I think with every player, we could see that he could hardly run, and we could see that he couldn't launch at the ball like he did in his All-Australian years. So he's getting back to form. I think he's been well supported by the 2 backs that brought in as well. I think Battle's been really solid.
Was excellent in the week.
He was excellent. I must admit, I hadn't watched a lot of Josh Battle, but he's really impressed me. The courageous way that he plays, tough, hard, and been well supported. But it looks like James Sicili's back to some really good form.
Well, it was touted as one of the big games of the weekend. It was the Bulldogs versus the Giants. We rocked up to Marvel Stadium on a Thursday night expecting a close one. And the only time it was close was at the start of the game. It left us scratching our heads. It left Adam Kingsley scratching his heads. Plenty of work to do for the Giants. The Dogs are on a roll. We'll dissect that next on the couch.
Someone said it was the fastest 4 goals in history.
Here he is, he's silent for the Cats. And he joins the party. He goes long, hands to Martin. 2 in a minute for Jack.
Suffice to say he had an impact. Yeah, and I hate that song.
Martin for his 3rd. He loves it. And they love him.
Yeah, no, the music after goals is not my thing at all. Ask me what I'd change in the AFL, that's it.
They have put the hammer down here, the Cats. Not again! You're going to get sick of the Macarena down. Martin's kicked 4 for the quarter.
Yes, one of the great evolutions in the fan experience, the songs after the goals. And Chris Scott, not a fan of Los Del Rios.
No, well, saying
Macarena.
he hates that song is like saying I hate that nickname. It guarantees that you are going to hear that nickname for the rest of your life, and he's going to hear that song for the rest of his life.
Well, he heard it 4 times in the quickest space of all time with Zach Martin.
Since you, how long did it take you to kick your
I don't know.
Because apparently you were the record. You told us.
I did that where
You insisted on this. And Brown, you insisted on this graphic.
told us
I did insist on this graphic, did I? I think once you retire, all your records get broken. But look at that, 5 minutes 16 it took him to kick 4 goals on the weekend.
Oh,
And
There's
God he
only
beat
one
you.
more set shot and you would have been okay.
yeah, I'll just have to go back to the timekeeper on that
pickup,
one.
though.
Yeah, he's been a fantastic pickup. I think Carlton fans would be kicking
flat
themselves
with that, or
at the moment. I am flat a little bit. But I'm going to pose the question, are we sleeping on the Cats? They were fantastic again on the weekend. They have the softest draw coming home. And they are sitting 4th at the moment, 1 or 2 games off the top of the ladder. They could win out and have a percentage of 145 here. They could be in top 2 and all of a sudden no one's mentioned them.
It's interesting. Like, how do you view that as a coach, boys, like leading into the finals? Like, do you look at that as if you're currently coaching Geelong with concern, or it just is what it is?
Well, once you get to the end of the season, you would have been happy if the last couple were hard games, probably. But at the moment, if they're looking like easier games, you're quite happy to accept that.
I think the Sydney game is the most important one for them.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Essendon have had a horrific one with their injury. The Tigers are probably teetering now at the moment. We saw that on the weekend with the Gold Coast. I think the Sydney game for them is their full dress rehearsal coming into finals, and don't be surprised if they're top 2 in 2 finals at home.
Well, they want to make sure that they get in the top 4 to get a double chance. So, they're going to be cherry ripe from a health perspective for a qualifying final. But yeah, it's that intensity that that real intensity that you get against another contender that
Big physical team.
well, you certainly you are, and you're just not going to get it.
You want to be ready.
Especially the pre-finals bye as well.
Makes it very interesting.
You can only deal with the cards you dealt, and I think Geelong have always been pretty good. at that.
They win all 3. They could finish 1-2. I mean, they have the real double chance.
And then we'll hear
well, not the double chance.
Yeah,
the
then
home
we'll-
final again.
Home final.
I cannot wait for that because that's the annual event, the Geelong home final. Well, we built up what we thought was going to be one of these pre-finals clashes. The 2 sides that are fighting to make finals, the Giants versus the Bulldogs, and it was an absolute giant howler at Marvel Stadium on Thursday night. Comprehensively beaten in every aspect of the game with the GWS Giants. And you look at those numbers under Adam Kingsley, and it doesn't paint a very good picture. Brownie, can you have a loss like this a month out from finals? This is not a loss. This is a bad loss.
It's a bashing.
Devastating.
Yeah.
No Toby Green, Jack Buckley. Well, he was certainly exposed, or him not being there was exposed.
Yeah.
Can you have a loss like this and be a contender in September?
Well, I would normally say no. Sydney did it last year. They had a whacking at the end of the year, and they still made the grand final. They didn't win it, of course. But, I'm losing faith in the Giants. I thought they were the ones, the smoky, that could come from outside the top 4 and rattle home. The second half last week, they were scintillating. That's as good a footy as you'll see. They've lost key players. You're right, Green wasn't there. But Buckley, I think Hogan's banged up. That's a real concern for me. I think Hogan's foot's not something he's getting over with a week off. They probably have a week off this week against North Melbourne to rest him up. But to me, there's grave concerns now for the Giants' chance to win the flag.
Leigh, where do you see the Giants?
Well, I'm inconsistent compared to most. I mean, they've been very good sometimes, not so good other times. On this game, though, I'd go I thought the Bulldogs were magnificent. Their marking power was something we know they've got. But on this night, Norton marked it, English marked it, Darcy marked it, Lobb marked it down the other end. Like the marking power we know. Now, the Bulldogs would destroy most teams if that happened. Now, that's only giving the Giants a little bit of how good the opposition were, but the Giants were a mile off. But as Damien Hardwick's here, we've seen, like, the Lions got beaten by 66 points the week before. So I think there's an element of teams can have a really bad game when the opposition gets hold of you, the scoreboard can really blow out.
I'm going to show you one
come back
passage
the
of play,
following
Leigh.
week. Yeah.
I want you to get your thoughts on this one passage of play, because what you're saying has happened in the past, a couple of weeks, but it doesn't happen like this. So this is a mark to Aaron Norton. You can see Lockie Whitfield's frustration there, gives away 50 metres. A fundamental of any premiership side is doing the little things. So manning the mark, even though it's embarrassing to go and stand on the mark when there's a 50-metre penalty, is a fundamental of AFL football. What would Adam Kingsley be thinking when he sees that? Because that, to me, says a lack of care.
Well, when you stand on the goal line, you just stand on the goal line. It's going to be a goal. So I think there's an element of he's got to kick the goal. What's the point? Now, what does it mean by saying it's not really the point is interesting. I mean, Himmelberg was the player, wasn't it? He just said, he's going to kick the goal. Why bother? And I guess just, as you say, getting the fundamentals right by habit, not by choice, is probably an interesting... I would have thought, if I was coaching the Giants, I would have thought, hey, someone should be standing the mark anyway. Who knows? He might fall over in the goal square. He might grub at a kick, what have you. So I think it's a reasonable criticism to say that wasn't a good vibe.
They gave up another 58 inside 50, so they're bottom couple in the competition for how much they give, and they're not. There we go. So against the top 9, they're 16th comp, and they're 18th for the bottom 9. So even against poor teams, they're giving a lot of field position. The thing for me, amongst all these numbers, they set themselves before they played Sydney. Enough is enough was their catch cry amongst the team. So they've played 8 quarters since they decided we've been pushed around by Sydney, we've been pushed around by the Dogs. And in that 8 quarters, they've had 6 really poor quarters and 2 good ones, or 1.5 good ones, off the back of a spray. So if you're waiting for your coach to fuel you and to give you the energy, that's the biggest concern for me as a playing group. Yeah, yes, they miss some personnel on the weekend. Every team at different stages is going to miss personnel. But if you're relying on 1 or 2 blokes to bring you the energy, or you're relying on a spray from your coach, that's a big concern. So there's structural issues, and there might even be, I suppose, motivational issues if you're talking about enough's enough, we're not going to be bullied, we're not going to be pushed around, and 75% of your next 8 quarters are really poor.
One man that they did miss on the weekend is Cal Ward, and John Ralph has the latest with Cal Ward's future. He's retiring, Ralphie. It's the end to one of the GWS Giants' greatest players.
That's right, Jack. His stunning career is finally over. So for one night after he tore his ACL against Richmond, he thought, will I go around again? He was so desperate to win that elusive flag. I asked him tonight how he would feel if the Giants won a premiership without him. His response to Fox Footy: it would mean everything. The one thing I wanted to achieve as a player was to play in a premiership, but now it's taken away from me. The best thing would be celebrating with them on the day. Now, a huge day of news. The round 24 fixture is out this week. That Power Suns game, which is the Ken Hinkley farewell game, it's now expected to be a Friday night clash, not a Thursday. That's always been the Port Adelaide preference. That's the Suns' expectation. The AFL Commission will meet on Thursday and Friday, 2 days. One of the agenda items, the future of the father-son rule. Now, if they made decisions on it, made changes to it, those decisions would come in September ahead of November's draft. A horrible weekend of injuries. Harry O'Farrell, a rising star from Carlton, has torn his ACL. That is confirmed. Nick Larkey, his season is over with a PCL. Geordie Payne, the young mid-season draftee, he will debut in place of the suspended Paul Curtis. And as Justin Longmuir has just revealed on AFL 360, it is a groin strain for Hayden Young. So the hope is it's only 1 or 2 weeks. The hope is that he's back in round 24, but a groin strain for him at the worst possible time, as the Dockers probably need another win or 2 to qualify for September. This was the incident, subbed off, and now out for at least 2 weeks and potentially the rest of the home and away season.
You could just hear Fremantle's season being ripped up there, I think. But a big injury to Hayden Young. And it begs the question, boys, is he the irreplaceable coming into September, or a potential September tilt for the Fremantle Dockers, Leigh? He certainly is their trump card.
It's like the elevator. I mean, they're pretty good, but he elevates them. The taller midfielder, I mean, like Jordan Dawson, like Bonampelli, the ones that have got a bit of height about them, but I don't know, they just make a difference, I think. I mean, we know that Brayshaw's good and Sarong's good, but they're not big. And I think Young is irreplaceable.
They're 5 and 2. They're 5 and 2 with him in the side, so that means he's pretty important. But they're lucky it's only a week. I mean, they were fearing the season.
All right, well, Leigh, have you got a few more irreplaceables?
Well,
because there is every side. I imagine every coach, as you were coming into September, going, please, Brownie, don't get hurt. Please, Vossi, don't get hurt.
Yep.
Who are the irreplaceables?
I'm the opposite. If I'm coaching against a team, I don't want to play their best team. I would like their best player to be unavailable. So these are the players I'd like to be unavailable if I'm coaching against, obviously, there's a list of them, Dawson for the Crows. So I won't go through the whole long, you can see them there. But they're the players, I think, that are the hardest to replace. A couple of them are the defensive anchor points, Andrews and Sam Collins. Sam Collins is there. So,
he's good on the
So there are a
weekend,
couple
Collins.
that might be a little bit sort of out of left field.
Tim English is fascinating.
Yeah. I just think the role he's playing at the moment is critically important. He gets into the forward line and makes sure the opposition ruckman can't just drop onto Darcy and Norton all the time. And he's becoming a really good follower. Terrible ruckman, but a really good follower, which is the old-style terminology of getting the ball around the ground.
I wouldn't mind asking if you were coaching into that week whether you sure you don't want Bont out.
You can only have one. I gave it about 30 seconds thought, so it wasn't a whole lot of that.
Good to know. We'll give this 30 seconds for it. You gave 4 minutes, actually, Leigh, because we're about to get into good, the bad, the ugly after this. It's good to be at the top of the pops and the good with the great Leigh Matthews. And Leigh, you're going to kick us off with the good, the bad and the ugly.
Yeah, let's start with a bit of both, because Ken Hinkley, I thought it was going to be a difficult year for Ken. Port are getting worse by the week. They've had a shocking year. They're hardly winning. But Ken looks really relaxed. I reckon he's less stressed than he was this time last year, Brownie. I don't know, Bucks, I don't know why.
Pepsi.
Coaching's an easy game.
I tell you what it proves is the unknown's easy to take. Sorry, the known's easy to take than the unknown.
That's
and
not
he
a great
knows
stat,
what's
though.
going on.
That is not a great
Right,
stat
relax.
there. 4 of the heaviest defeats under his tenure this year, 88 points far out.
Not great. My good Mac Andrews. It was like the longest drive competition. Lady just wanted to join in the party. Gold Coast Suns were terrific. Very business-like. They knocked over Richmond. They were the favourites going in. And look at the catch there by the ball boy.
No doubt
It's
he's
like
an academy
Pease.
kid.
Yeah,
He'll be a
well,
first-round draft pick. He'll get a compensation on up there at the Gold Coast, no doubt.
Yeah, they'll get him for pick 60. Hey, I thought Fremantle were excellent at being able to remain composed. Carlton came as a motivated opponent, started the game really well. They've actually won 3 of their last 4 games from being behind at three-quarter time. So to see that against good opposition too for the whole, and that was an impressive performance late last night, but they were able to do it against Hawthorn and Collingwood. It's good to be able to flick the switch when you need to.
There's another good catch by a ball boy there too.
Want to squeeze that in. My good's the duo of Norton and Darcy. We touched on them a little bit before, but if they're going to make a big run to the finals, well, these two boys are in some serious form. So it's the only time 2 forwards have kicked back-to-back 5 goals each since, you got your name in there, Brown and Brayshaw, Brown and Lynch. So they're in fine form. 5-7 and Darcy 5 and 6 the last 2 weeks.
We used to do that all the time. Mate.
Since 2008. Remember the game? I was Brayshaw, sorry. Brayshaw and Brown since 2008.
Try to get Lynch in, I don't mind that. The bad, well, I've got Caleb Daniel, and I spoke about Colby McKercher and his ball use in the back half. I found out where he's learning it from, because at the moment, in all seriousness, Caleb Daniel is costing his team goals from use, predominantly from kick-ins, but deep in defence. This here goes back the other way, and that is on Caleb Daniel and Caleb Daniel only. He's the worst player. Worst player at the moment, Bucks. Worst player at giving up scores from kick-outs.
It's hard to defend. It's hard to defend.
It's not good at the moment.
Big statement. My bad was last quarter on Friday night when the game was stopped for cramp. So this shouldn't be allowed. So they need to just sort this out. We don't want to see this in the final series. So, yes, we know Will Day's obviously just come back from injury, but cramp cannot be a reason for the game to be stopped. Otherwise, it might halt the opposition's momentum.
The game's still an athletic challenge as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's part of it.
This was from the weekend. So the West Coast Eagles, if their season's not going too bad, they're trying to get messages out to the players. what are the players need to be thinking when that's like that? I mean, they're probably thinking it'd be nice to turn the ladder upside down as well.
Religious at the West Coast Eagles, aren't they?
But that was my bad.
Well, I'll go with my ugly. And it was Paul Curtis. And this has happened a couple of times at North Melbourne. They've just given away little things and they're costing themselves weeks. Look at this. The headbutt was close. The shot after the siren. He is such an important player in all Australian calculations. And then just to throw a little punch like this in what is an insignificant moment, that would be killing North Melbourne. And it is lucky to be 1 week.
I agree. My uglies from the Sydney game. So Cleary comes on as the sub. So he wants to get into the game early. So Tom Paley looks after him. He just trips over at the wrong moment.
Oh, poor bugger.
Could not even get his slipper onto that ball, which should have been. He didn't touch it.
Well, it was a little one, wasn't it?
Did not touch it.
Not enough.
No. That's a bad first possession.
My ugly. Let's have a look at this. Ralphie's best work on Friday night.
And of course, if we get a player like Jack Silvani in, well, the rising tide lifts all boats, rather.
That's the one, mate. And the ugli's actually for me.
Oh, OK, you're going to turn around,
I said, that's the one, mate. So you can't throw your colleagues under the bus. For me. Ralphie speaks that often. You're not going to get every word in place.
That's about as good
as... It's so brave of you to throw yourself in front of me there, Bucks.
Express conference.
Smokes and shadows down the corridor.
Down the corridors, behind the mirrors. As a Brisbane Lions supporter, things were going beautifully until this happened. Will Ashcroft, one of the classiest players in the comp and has got great vision, bang, he's kicked it straight to Bobby Hill. In that second half. Now, Bobby Hill, he's popped out of a sprinkler, honestly. If we just look at the other angle, though, I'm going to blame the Collingwood runner for getting involved.
Oh.
He was riding shotgun over
Maxwell?
Bob Hill. Let's have a look at another angle from this. Look at the runner. That's the Collingwood runner. Those dirty pies runners. Dirty tactics by the opposition. I would have been putting in an official complaint if we had got knocked over. So there you go.
Very good.
Yeah.
I like that getting in. Well, we have got Sing the Praises next, but big game Thursday night. Look at this. The Pies, well, boys, they are going to be battling for top 4 after a big loss against the Lions, and the Hawks will be battling for final spots. Plenty to play live on Fox Thursday night.
I have to praise you like I should.
I'm going to have to get into the Fox Footy archives, I think, to find some footage of you singing there, Leigh, because we've all been thrown under the bus.
There is none.
There is
It's
none,
one
is
of
there?
the best moments of your life. It's one of the worst. You're talking about.
Rightio, time to sing the praises, and Leigh, you're going to kick us off.
Well, they say patience is a virtue. Darcy Fort, who has been the backup ruckman for a few years to Oscar McInerney, he got the call-up in the grand final, won the grand final, and he's got the call-up again with McInerney. He's been a bit injured. And I thought he more than broke even on Saturday night with Darcy Cameron, who's really highly rated, which really assisted the Lions to dominate the clearances. So he's just been incredibly patient. He's 31, played a massive 49 games. But, geez, he's been valuable when he's out there.
Goal kicking, most underrated stat in football, courtesy of my old coach, Leigh Matthews. And the main function of key forwards is to kick straight. Well done to all the key forwards across the competition. Voss, Amos, Tracy, Larkey, Smith, 3 straight. Big Tex, 3-1, including 2 great late ones. Gunston, Thilthorpe, Ben King, 4 straight or 4-1. Darcy and Norton, 5-3 and 5-2. And Cameron and Morris, 6-1 and 6 straight. That is a magnificent performance by a majority of the key forwards over the weekend. Great to see.
Mine's Jack Viney across the weekend. He would have been disappointed with the end result against the Saints last week, so his game on the weekend was huge. He had 25 touches, he kicked a goal, 13 clearances, 8 tackles. That's following up a performance from the Saints where he had 16 tackles and 8 clearances. So, I think he's had a great couple of weeks, Jack Viney.
I think the Suns have found a way to do it differently in the forward line. No Jed Walter, they've been playing 3 key forwards, but Ben Long and Jai Farah. Jai Farah has played only a handful of games, have given them a different look in the forward line, and they are waxing down there as well. I think
Pressure up well
of
too,
difference.
those two.
I like them.
I shout out to the rucks and them doing it. And I thought Farah was excellent. The rucks are doing it a little bit differently. Tim English, probably a little bit more in general play, getting forward and being a forward threat and forward 50. But then you go to the other side, you got Brodie Grundy, who's just a combative follow-up ruckman, had 39 touches, the most ever by a ruckman in great form.
The rucks are doing it good. We've got round 22 ahead of us. We'll see you in 2 weeks, Leigh. We'll see you next week live on the couch.